What's up, star children? Welcome back to Star Quality. Happy last full moon of 2024. We did it. We're at the end. Somehow, I mean, it feels like we're at the end, but what's a little wild about December is we are not done with our major lunations. We're actually going to have one more new moon right at the very end on December 30th. That's a new moon in Capricorn. I'll be back with an episode all about that. So stay tuned, subscribe. Also, if you're a new person here, welcome to Star Quality. Star Quality is a podcast and newsletter hosted by me, your astrologer, Stevie Goldstein. I'm an intuitive astrologer and working astrologer, consulting astrologer. So if you want a reading, I did open up my calendar for the rest of December, and I'll add some more dates to January, probably in the next coming weeks. I don't know about y'all, but in 2024, I've really been living like a week at a time. So if you need a further out reading or you want to schedule further in advance, just email me, stevie@stevies.world. All of this is in the show notes, but take a look at my calendar and book a time with yourself if you want to get ready for 2025, get some clarity for 2025. We can do traditional natal chart reading deep dive, solar returns. One of my favorite reading offerings I've been doing this year, which is a new offering, which I've really enjoyed, is creative unblocking. So working with your chart to unlock your creative, explorative, playful side. I have an art background, so I really enjoy those readings. But yeah, I would love to, if you enjoy this, I think you would enjoy reading with me. So I hope to see you over there too. Star Quality is a subscriber funded, supported publication. So if you also are feeling like, yeah, I like this stuff, feel free to upgrade your subscription for $7.77 a month, which is like buy me an iced coffee where I can tip the barista $1 because my iced coffees are like $6. That's a time period mark for here and now in December 2024. You can get all the weekly horoscopes, the paywalled content, all of that stuff, and then just helps me even make more episodes and things for you. So next year is definitely going to have a lot more evergreen learning episodes, about like houses, planets, signs, or guest episodes, all of that jazz. And there's a big chunk of new people here, so welcome. I just did a guest post with Holisticism on their Substack, The 12th House, which is their podcast and newsletter. So I made a spell for them, which is a spell for accessing internal spiritual retreat to channel pleasure, happiness, and creativity. So I made a spell. The origin was I had a really homebound year this year. So I made a spell to basically transport you into a vacation-like mindset and space. So it's like a bit of a visualization, also just mixed with like kind of senses, strengthening the visualization and also like getting into your channeling, just like a state of mind. So I'll link that as well, but check that out if you're looking for a spell to kind of tap into a different world. Normally the lunation episodes are paywalled. Well, usually I'll like do the first chunk is available for everybody. Then the second half I'll put a little wall up, but I'm going to keep this one unwalled just because there's so many new people. So I'd like you to experience a full podcast episode. This one's audio only today. I'm like truly, I think I said this last time, I'm super down for a new video recording recommendation. Like I want to be able to record the chart recording and my video, but I feel like, I don't know, I'm just like not finding the right video tool. So this is a call for tool service. How can I record something that lets me have like an artificial background, but also record my browser? Anyways, tech support, then welcome to my tech support request. So if you're listening to this podcast, sometimes there's video. It's always audio for sure. You can listen on your podcast apps or enter this RSS feed into your podcast app of choice. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please review me. Subscribe and review. This just helps other people find me, helps the algo, that whole jazz. It truly feels like a lifetime ago that I recorded the new moon in Sagittarius episode, even though it wasn't like that long ago. The last time I updated from a Lunation podcast app, I was house dog sitting and sick in Arizona. Fun fact, when we got back, they wrote us a really bad review. So that was cool. It was such a Mercury retrograde road trip. That Mercury retrograde was happening in my 6th house, which represents not only pets, but also health and illness. And my husband, Pablo, his Sagittarius part of his chart is in the 8th house. He was also super sick. We went to the Grand Canyon. Pablo did not. He could not make it. He was so sick. Back to this bad review. They said we left crumbs. It was crazy. So anyways, I feel like it's just so interesting. Like for me, and maybe someone listening needs this, and maybe for most you're like, well, who cares, bitch? But it's fine because this is my space. Is like we'd been just so homebound. Back to that spell. Like we've been so homebound with like so many changes this year and like setbacks and disappointments. And it was interesting that this Mercury retrograde trip that felt like, oh, this is going to be something that like brings joy and gets us out of our comfort zone and like gets us in doing new things. It was just like, sometimes you do need those air quote bad vacations to kind of get back in the headspace of appreciating what you got back home. And I feel like I had one of those. So maybe it's also back to the gratitudes, the attitudes sort of thing. But it was like, wow, yeah, that trip probably didn't need that. I mean, there was a lot of good from it too. I got to like see my baby cousin, and obviously the Grand Canyon was 10 out of 10, outstanding. No notes. Can't believe it only has a 4.8 on Google reviews, on Google Maps. Did get to meet the guy who worked at the Grand Canyon who said I should apply to be an astrologer there. So let's see if that's the new path. And I did get to go with my friends Lee and Tyler. So I was fun to third wheel and hang out with them and enjoy Flagstaff. Oh my God, I got to go to the home of Pluto. I haven't talked about that since I've got him back on. I'm going to do like a deeper podcast recap for the winter in these coming weird holiday season weeks, the end of the year lull. What is lifetime that most of us kind of sit in. But yeah, I accidentally got to go to the home of Pluto. It was discovered in Flagstaff at Lowell Observatory. And I didn't go to the I went to the observatory. Like I physically went there and got a picture, but I didn't go do a tour because I just didn't even know it was there and didn't have time to do a full Pluto exhibit, which they have, which I will definitely do next time I'm out in that region. But yeah, if you are anywhere near or interested in going to Flagstaff, Arizona, it is the home of Pluto and the observatory is there. And they had really cute merch. And on Pluto's birthday, at least they did this last year, I saw they did a Pluto pub crawl in the shape of the glyph, the P-looking glyph of Pluto. So that was really cool. It made me, like, I like planning trips and explorations around, like, certain things. Like, I love volcanoes. Like, I always want to go see, like, a live active volcano. And now I'm like, damn, I want to go to, like, where planets were discovered. That did prompt me to look that up. Basically, the outer planets are really the only ones that have like these, here it was discovered here, just because like, Venus has been visible for centuries, and say Mars, like all the visible planets don't really have that, but the outer planets with like defined, we finally built this telescope. I have to double check. I think Uranus was like somewhere in Germany, and I think Neptune was somewhere in Italy, but I'd have to check. But that felt like a fun add to the field trip, sort of like places of discovery, and if they have like a mark to celebrate that sort of thing. So anyways, that's my just 2-week lunation update. Was reporting live from the trenches of watching 3 dogs that barked nonstop and were kind of brats, honestly, and just to get a bad review and to possibly never get to use a house sitting website again. But anyways, and because it was our first review on the site, so now we have like this horrible score. It's so Mercury retrograde, but also I think something that I realized too was like traveling where you have to have this like job or responsibilities also maybe not my favorite thing. Like I actually do just want to have fun and not be like, okay, I have to get back and exercise these dogs for an hour or they will just keep barking. You know what I mean? Like I think I don't want like that sort of level of responsibility. Anyways, and if you're the owner and you happen to find this podcast and you're listening, Literally, you suck so hard. You guys are like rich investment bankers and you profit off of the free labor of pet sitters. And I think you suck. Anyways, wow. Okay. If this is your first episode, I feel like I say this every episode. I'm like, if this is your first episode, what a weird one to come in on. Okay. Actually, one less more off topic, on topic moon thing. Actually, very on topic is this is not a sponsored ad. Just my friends B and Joe make these really awesome moon calendars. It's a 2025 moon calendar. It's the full lunar calendar, and it's this like really pretty. What is it on linen? Yeah, it's on linen. It's like this linen like tapestry sort of thing, but it's not. It's compact. It's not like full wall. You'll see. I'll put a link. But every year they do these really cool prints on linen with a design that they did. That's the full moon calendar for the year. And it's really, I've had one for years. They're my close friends. I get no kickback from this. I just think they're awesome. And yeah, they just do wood, linen, and silk screen. And they're like these really beautiful moon calendars that are decorative. They're great gifts. They're great for yourself. I'm obviously getting one for myself this year. So I'm going to put a link. They have an Etsy shop and check it out. They're really cool. This year's design is like this snail person who's like writing a letter. It's really cute. It feels very appropriate since 2025 is a hermit tarot card year. And yeah, it gives big, cute snail hermit vibe. They also have this quote, which I never noticed in their Etsy shop, that says, "Nature held me close and seemed to find no fault with me." Quote, Leslie Feinberg. That's a sweet quote. So thank you, B and Joe. I'm gonna put a link to that and check it out. I just really enjoy. First of all, I just love them. They're my really good friends, and this calendar they make is really special. So check that out. Okay, let's get into this Gemini full moon. All right, this Gemini full moon is happening December 15th, 2024. This is happening at 1:01 a.m. Pacific time. Adjust for your time zone. I'm going to put a image of the chart of the full moon. Mind you, this is set for my time zone here in Los Angeles, so the rising sign is going to be different depending on where you're located. Don't worry too much about that because all the planet shapes, if you will, the aspects are going to be the same. But yeah, for this Los Angeles chart, like we have a Libra rising, for example. If you're somewhere else, it's going to be somewhere else. Or if you're nearby here, it's going to be similar. So don't get too tripped up on that. And a full moon is when the moon is its brightest. You're like probably duh. But that means that it is in this opposition to the sun in astrology and astronomy. With a new moon, that's when it's the darkest. That's when it's there with the sun. It's complete darkness. This moon is when we're at our brightest. And looking at aspects of this chart, it's pretty interesting. The Gemini moon is no longer in conjunction with Jupiter. Jupiter's nearby here. This full moon's also happening at 23 degrees of Gemini, if I did not mention. And the real big aspect that's going on, because we want to look at what aspects are being made to the moon to kind of unlock this full moon story and what we might be learning from this experience, right? The big aspect, obviously, besides the opposition of the sun, because that's always going to be the case, is a square from Neptune. That's literally the only other aspect happening to the moon, is a square from Neptune in Pisces, which is now direct and moving forward. That changed, I think, like a day or two ago. I can't remember the exact date. It's on my weekly forecast, so you can refer back to that there. And whenever we have a, quote, difficult aspect from Neptune, right? A square is tension. It means something needs to change. It means that we need attention. And when there's a mutable square, and honestly, the Neptune is like really, besides obviously the sun and moon, is like pretty loud in this full moon chart because it's getting T-squared from the sun and moon. Like this Neptune is in a perfect tension position from both the sun and moon in the full moon chart. Neptune's also getting a bunch of other aspects I'll talk about in just a second. But when there is tension from Neptune, this planet related to fantasy and illusions, and like in some ways many beautiful Venus sort of things, like lovey, romantic, dream-like state, right? This is where we get with Neptune. And Neptune's also in Pisces, which is supporting that energy. Now, Neptune is going to change signs into Aries soon. In 2025, I do believe it retrogrades back into Pisces. There's going to be a full episode about that coming up. Probably later this month. I gotta just edit that. Okay, to-do list, add into my to-do list. very, very check-in, very square to Neptune. Like, yeah, maybe do the things we all need to do. But a moon, the emotional space in Gemini, which is really connected to that mind, having a square off from Neptune is any of like these lingering promises, maybe to yourself, possibly from others, since it's Gemini related, is really just needing like, it's just like it's a very sober look at what is happening. It feels like with the moon and our feelings and the Gemini and the ideas and the, it's all, there's like a big creativity connection. And with the moon being squared by Neptune, it is like, where are we squashing our own dreams before we can even get them off the ground? There seems to be like maybe frozen in the idea phase and not enough in the action phase. And also that feels quite illuminated too, since we have both Mercury retrograde and Mars retrograde in this lunation chart. And what's interesting about the Mercury retrograde of it all is that Mercury retrograde is going to go direct later in the day on the 15th. It's like sometime in the afternoon. And that Mercury retrograde, I'll come back to Neptune in a second, but while I'm here on this Mercury retrograde, Mars retrograde energy, the Mercury is in this chart getting a lot of positive impact. So there's a trine to that Mars retrograde. There's a trine to the North Node. There's a sextile to the South Node. There's a sextile to Venus in Aquarius. And it's interesting because I think with retrograde planets, when they are in good, air quotes, good aspects, trines, it doesn't mean like, oh, well, then they are granted out of their retrogradeness, right? There just might be more realizations, maybe even more snafus, more mix-ups, more like, wait, what the fucks, or more of that kind of retrograde-y clarity. But yeah, the moon and Neptune of it all is really, and the sun with this Neptune conversation is really loud. And then on top of that, Neptune is getting, of course, that square from the sun and the moon, but it's also getting at the same time a sextile from Uranus and Pluto. So it's interesting. There's like, the shape's even like really cool. It's like, oh, there's like tension from the conscious and subconscious, but then the like true, I don't know, it feels like almost like medieval prankster, like actually we could do this sort of thing. Planets of Uranus and Pluto are like all these outer guys are like, what's wrong with you all? Sort of signals that our day-to-day actions might be slowing down a bigger picture. And so if all the outer planets are having this like party, right, but all the personal planets are like malfunctioning, then, I mean, again, this isn't like the best time for new moves because we are in this Mercury-Mars retrograde. Doesn't mean new things can't come in, but it's definitely a better time for older cleanups, going back to projects, checking back in on things that were already kind of in motion versus going off trail into unknown territory. Even let's take a look at Jupiter, since that's also in Gemini, but not technically with the moon, but still in the same zone. Jupiter has been, it's funny, there's like two parts to this Jupiter. Jupiter has been making this really lovely trine to Venus and Aquarius, which has been like, thank God we've had that in the background. But at the same time, we're getting a square from Saturn. And so when we have the social planets, Jupiter and Saturn, in this mutable square, while Jupiter's getting love from Venus, there is this like a little bit of like, I don't care what my parents say. Like, I don't care what my friends say, but not in like a, like, you're being reckless, dangerous sort of style. I think it's just like maybe breaking from the group a little bit and breaking from whatever expectations that your friends or your community or whatever circle you're in, right? There is like a little bit of breaking away from the friend group and not being too influenced by like, well, they all wear this. Like, I don't know if you've seen like the memes that are right, like, oh, Gen Z all has the same going out outfit. It's like jeans and a black top. And it is wearing the red dress if everyone's wearing jeans and a black top, especially compounded with Venus and Aquarius, which is so much about the group, but also like the fact that a bunch of really cool individuals make a group, not just a group as a group as a group. Okay, what else is going around? Who have I not talked about? I also personify the planets, if you can tell. Let's go back to Venus because it is in this opposition, and it has been for a minute, to Mars retrograde. And then Venus is also getting a nice sextile from Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. So the Venus-Mars opposition is definitely a little bit of wants versus needs. You know, Mars being our needs, Venus being our wants. They're both in like, it's funky in Leo Aquarius energy because they're both kind of like divas in their own right of the zodiac. But I think this too, especially because, you know, we're at the end of the calendar year. We're about to enter 2025. Like, if we're, I don't know, my instinct automatically goes to like sex things, especially with Venus and Mars. It's just like, you should be satisfied. You should be satisfied in your love. You should be satisfied with, you know, I went to like fashion, like back to fashion. Like, you should be in your look, what you symbolize, like, I don't know, just like feeling like you're actually like a representative of yourself. And again, just like getting out of the group, like not being just herded in with everyone and breaking that Neptune illusion that like everything is just fine, or like, oh, we're all good. I mean, oh my God, what a space to talk about the CEO shooting for a second. I was actually up for a job at an astrology company. You can take a guess which one. And so I wasn't tweeting that much about the CEO shooter because I was like, you know, when you're up for a job and you're like, I don't want to look totally unhinged online. And now I like kind of regret it because I was passed on and their loss. It was for, I can't actually, it's too easy to figure out. Anyways, you can sound off in the comments with guesses because I'll take any algo bumps. Why not? But you know, with Luigi Mangione as the alleged, we don't know if he did it, the alleged shooter of the fucking overlord of a healthcare company that made billions and billions and billions of dollars. Like, oh my God, aren't we seeing that playing out in real time? Of, you know, I saw a post recently that was like, yeah, it's not necessarily the shooting that, you know, had Blue Cross Blue Shield, I think that's the company, switched their stance on offering anesthesia or not, because I don't know if you saw in the news, they were like only going to do partial coverage. So like part of the surgery would cover anesthesia, what part wouldn't, which would in theory almost make doctors feel like they have to rush or they're on the clock or whatever, even though they move as fast as humanly possible in situations like that. But, you know, it wasn't the actual like act of violence. It was this was a post somewhere. It was the crowds, this society's reaction. Because if that shooting happened and we as a society all hit the streets like, that was wrong, that was so bad, we disagree, then nothing would change. But the societal reaction was, that's not that bad. Actually, I see why he would do that. Oh my God, I've wanted to do something like that. I'm speaking as a hypothetical collective. Don't come for me. Just kidding, star. Insert here. If you know, you know. And I think that's going to be, we're seeing that on the large scale with the murder of this public villain in a lot of our minds. It doesn't matter who that person was, right? It was just a faceless person as this head, right? And now we're seeing CEOs removing their pages from their websites or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But this is really big. And I feel like it's even very here in this full moon chart of like, yeah, dissent from what the group is saying and also listening to actually what everyone is saying. It's not just business as usual. It's not like, I don't know, I always love this meme moment of like, no, that's not true, Ellen. It's actually correcting the things that have felt like we've been lied to, especially Mercury's retrograde. It's going into review. It's in Sagittarius. It's like, it's taking those big long-winded Sag things and like chilling out for a second and getting connected into that future-minded Venus Aquarius. It's sitting in opposition to Mars and from that tension of like, yeah, we don't have to like actually live like this. We could actually have a lot of Jupiter joy if we stopped wasting our fights on the people that don't deserve it and start using our message a little bit more appropriately. So it feels like, I think, you know, and free Luigi, for fuck's sakes, like, is my opinion. And I think that this this Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Mercury, like all these, it's very personal. It's very regular life stuff. And these things in our regular life I don't know. It comes back to like, I think where the Democrats really lost their sauce in the presidential campaign is they started off strong with like, hey, all this stuff that's happening is weird, right? And then they like neutered themselves because they're centrists, basically Republicans. So yeah, I think that now after the shooting, we've seen a lot of people on the app they're trying to ban, TikTok, not even trying, they're going to ban it, telling their stories of rejection and how their family members have died. And, because of delayed coverage or lack of coverage or having to fight claims or their doctors work through loopholes, like they don't offer healthcare. They offer a system. And it's just really crazy to me. Let's get in a healthcare rant for a second. I guess I'm already on it. Is that, no presidential nominee mentioned healthcare once. Not in a public way. Maybe a little written thing on their website, but like they don't want to talk about it because the system works for them. And it's I don't know anyone that likes their healthcare. Never have, never will, and it's going to change. And it's a change or be changed. And I think that's been the Pluto Aquarius method. It's interesting how loud Pluto and Aquarius has actually really been. And I think we're going to see a lot more of it when we actually move into the sun sign Aquarius season, with Pluto here now for its long haul for these, this next decade plus. And yeah, again, just free Luigi. He didn't do it. I didn't see him. And the other part of that being like this McDonald's employee that narked him out or whatever probably isn't even going to get this reward because they didn't actually technically file it in the Crime Stoppers thing. They called the police directly, so they actually disqualified. It's like the red tape, the logistic nightmare to do anything in this, at least in the United States. Again, I can't speak to the experience in other countries, would make you want to go Luigi mode. Let's just say that. I think I mentioned that, but let me just re-mention, just also in that Mars opposition has been this opposition to Pluto at the same time because Venus and Pluto have been there together in Aquarius. So really this restructuring of values, the rules, again, the pointing out that that's not true, that's not real in a very kind of Leo sun, Leo being represented by the sun in this Mars retrograde of like this battle, right? This very public scene battle versus the Aquarian collective and community. If this is how Pluto and Aquarius is going to go, I'm for it. Let's go. Pluto and Capricorn was too fucking stuffy. Let us charge into a future that's not just being like, I don't know, eliminated by robots. And maybe we focus on the minority that's actually doing the most harm in our country, which is billionaires. Okay, what else? What else is going on? Let me look at the chart again, just make sure I'm not missing anything. We talked about the Mars energy. Mercury is getting just a lot of love all around. So like there is a experimental speak on it. You're not the hero for like bottling up your feelings. We're also getting this Sun Chiron trine, which I think just kind of adds into all of this, like speak on your pain. I think a lot of people think they have to come perfect and ready for whatever next thing they're doing is. And I think showing up as you are, like just starting, just doing versus like waiting for this perfection moment, feels quite prevalent. And also maybe something I didn't point out because it's an out of sign. Oh wow, it's on my moon. That's kind of tight. My natal moon is this Neptune that's been a really big part of this conversation is conjunct the North Node. It's out of sign. Neptune is at 27 degrees Pisces and the North Node is at 2 degrees of Aries. But again, there's something saying like this future, this destiny, if we look at the North Node as this the North Node as this karmic destiny point, is saying like something needs to be unlocked in the Neptune department in order to access that. And we almost need to get over ourselves and our feelings in that sun moon's way. We need to embrace like a really radical, different looking life and future, maybe one that wasn't part of the original design, because full moons are where we release and let go. And they're like, if it was too long, didn't read or didn't listen to this podcast, it's like a release of whatever wherever you feel like is impossible. Like if you're already in that mindset, like this is just not possible, it's not going to be possible. So where can we get more in support of ourselves? And then also taking a little stock and credit for how much you've already have achieved and done, and that it's not just like for naught, right? The outer planets are signaling like this big thing's coming, but the personal planets are really getting caught up in their own funk and are having a little trouble moving. Honestly, besides like Mercury, like Venus is getting a lot, but like this Mercury retrograde is like also like this nice little beacon of hope or a reminder, or sort of again coming back and rewriting the story, since that all the retrograde stuff is like, you know, something's not done here, and like don't give up so easily. Literally, like, don't rain on your own parade. I always say this, like life is hard enough. Like we don't need to make it harder for ourselves. So also too, you know, I think I saw some posts that was like, especially coming back to this like TikTok ban and like people who've like really enjoyed that platform. I do. I love TikTok. I don't really post as much. I enjoy laughing at cat videos and things, but I was planning to post more in 2025. But I think it was from the astrologer Blue Cameron. I think she reposted someone saying like, oh my God, I tried to make like a long form YouTube video and I like hate it. I like talking in shorter bursts, and that's what I realized with TikTok. And so I think too, you know, it doesn't have to be rooted around content creation, but it can be just around like in general. Like if you're a chef, like maybe baking is not your thing. You know, maybe you like being the sauce guy. I don't know. Maybe same with education. Maybe you're like, I thought I wanted to teach adults in college, but actually really like kids. So it's like, it's reformulating the gifts you already have. Like, where do we apply the gifts that aren't feeling like it's just this like extra labor? Okay, I thought it'd be fun to end with a tarot card pull. And actually, I have this deck. I don't even know if you can really call it a deck, because it's, well, it calls it a deck. It's only major arcana cards. So normally in a tarot deck, there is 78 cards, and 22 of those being major arcana cards. And when you get a major arcana card, that typically means like, so for example, you guys like know, like there's coins, swords, cups. Who am I missing? Coins, swords, cups, wands. And when we get those cards, like, you know, 2 of coins or 5 of wands, those usually are representing the daily actions, like little things that we can do in the day-to-day. When we get a major arcana card, that's going to represent a bigger tentpole theme. So you can almost think about like, and I know like each tarot card has like an association to the zodiac, planets and signs and whatever, but you can think of it too like the minor, do they call it minor arcana? I'm not a historian here, but when you get like the suits, bro, whatever, it's Mercury retrograde. When you get those cards, those do represent almost in a personal planet way, like Mercury, Venus, Mars, like the day-to-day action. Even let's like lump in Saturn and Jupiter in that sort of social planet way, where I do think of like the major arcana as these bigger switches, which can represent, I think, almost the impact of outer planet, like outer planet, bigger, longer era themed, bigger themes. So when I was at a Grateful Dead show, a Dead & Co show, I think that was their last show I saw at the Forum in 2023. I bought this from a guy. It comes in a Ziploc bag, and it's only major arcana. It's from a guy named Fred Strong. It came with this little booklet, and he has a lot of good writing on here, and it also came with these cards that talk about like his journey with the Grateful Dead and with tarot. I met him when I was there. This deck is only it's number 19 of 100, so it's a limited run. And yeah, I just saw this in the lot, you know, where they sell like, where people buy like merch and drugs and drinks and whatever stuff. People sell artwork. And I saw this and I was like, I'll buy this 22 card major arcana pack that's in a Ziploc bag from this dude named Fred Strong. And this is a card that he just wrote about the tarot in general. And it said, this deck will not accurately predict your future. Sorry about that. Even if we accept the universe as a mental, purposeful thing, and every card in a reading being placed there by the universe for us to see, wouldn't seeing them alter any predicted path? There's more to tarot than fortune telling. Then it kind of gets into the history of like tarot and the Renaissance and et cetera, et cetera. But I like this part, which also says, as above, so below. Each image can be a shorthand for a whole set of doctrines from both a cosmological as well as individual point of view, or a macro and microcosmic standpoint. If you like rabbit holes, as many deadheads do, gaining an understanding of the cards is rewarding and can be its own meditation on the self and the universe. If nothing else, readings allow us to break down a quandary and consider it in its minutiae and from many angles. The worth of the reading is not the infallibility of the card's predictions, but the comprehensive and nuanced way the cards help us to consider our questions. IMHO, in my honest opinion. Couldn't agree more. I feel like we saw this a lot with the presidential election when people got the prediction wrong or whatever, which I really liked in the latest December forecast for the astrology podcast, which was like, yeah, it's like a coin flip. Like, of course we can go back and look, but like, is it worth like all this exhaustion as a predictor to like lose your mind over the stupid ass presidential election for the United States? But I really like this as like a, why do we get readings, right? Why do we go to tarot? Why do we go to astrology readings? Why do I give astrology readings? It's like, I'm not here to be like, oh, you're gonna, I know a lot of people show up and are like, just tell me who I'm gonna marry and tell me this and make this, and it's like, well, you think if it was that like exact, wouldn't everybody be using tarot or astrology? Like, we're here to like reflect. We're here to like experience it ourselves as humans. So anyways, I want to pick a card from this 22 major arcana Grateful Dead themed deck that I got. And this is a Gemini full moon vibe check for all of us. And I think in a sense too of like, where can we have like, apply it yourself. My mind's going to like, where can we just have fun? Where can we speak freely? Where can we just like really go Gemini mode, All right. I pulled. So what's funny? So all these cards have like different show dates from this tour. And I actually pulled the card from the show I was at. So that's very cute. I pulled the Empress. I'll put a photo of this as well. This is Grateful Deadified. So there's like the classic skull and roses imagery from the dead. There's also this Venus symbol with like the dead head, steely fist pound sort of thing, one of the little bears. And I mean, I already know like the Empress is connected to divine femininity and to the nurturing, the natural, to quote the Grateful Dead, the wonders of nature. This is a little description from Biddy Tarot, but the Empress is a beautiful, full-figured woman. She's sitting on her throne. She's adorned with pomegranates, fertility symbols, symbol of Venus, creativity, all this stuff, all this like just like good stuff, right? Like this like all sounds nice so far, right? And just looking at, oh, that's really nice. Again, from Biddy Tarot, and if you don't use it, biddytarot.com has a lot of great card breakdowns if you ever want to like refer back. But this feels very that Jupiter Venus trine, right? Like the abundance. Like, what do you have? Oh my God, I'm going to share this like really corny screenshot image that I saw the other day that I absolutely needed after, just still dealing with my pet grief and then not getting this job and then the holidays or whatever. And then I got some like really difficult family news and it was just like, bruh. And I just saw, your normal day is someone's dream. Be thankful every day. And I thought that was really nice and so true. And like, the thing is like our bar for happiness as we get more of the things we want keeps going up, right? Like, oh my God. Doesn't mean that we're like greedy little shits. It's just like, yeah, we're still like building this really big dream world. So I think this really, we can connect this card to like mothering and nurturing and caring. And I think if you're in the space to care and be the nurturer, consensually, like, thank you. But if you're on the other side needing some nurturing, needing to be baby, needing like just like help, like to cry, to want, to like say like, how do I get back on my throne, right? Like, how do I become this like goddess of love? That will probably, it's probably a question worth asking. Like, how do you step more into that goddess power position? What do you need to let go of that's not letting you be this badass bitch that you're that you can be. I also like this line from Biddy Tarot because I think it comes truly fully back is, of course, there can be the actual like pregnancy or childbirth or whatever, but also bringing your creative ideas into nurturing them, supporting them to grow. Like, where are you stuck? Do you just not have the right tools? I've always wanted to take this class. Like, what do you need to like get your shit? What do you need to like do the vision? I know, like I said earlier, I was like, I'm not on video because like I still need I need to spend a day researching my video setup because I don't. I come on, I'm like, oh fuck, it's like I want to, it's today, it's this week, let me do, whatever. And I know for me, I need to like set some free time aside to get my curriculum, to get my tools, to get my support system of like how I operate realigned. Okay, well, that's the Gemini full moon. I hope you are feeling like the Empress card. I'll post a photo of this as well. Yeah, be kind to yourself, be kind to your mind, express yourself. No one else is going to do it for you. And I also coming back to this like nature, since this Empress is in the beautiful forest, wherever you can go connect with something natural and real and beautiful and inspiring never hurts, right? Okay, guys, love you. Thank you for listening. Have a nice full moon. I will see you next time. Bye.